Hello again. I just wanted to share a little bit about our property and that we bought 3 years ago. That was on a very shaded lot, and it's still pretty shaded, as you see. But we've actually had trees cut 3 or 4 times. I'm losing count now. Excuse the mess. My husband's boats are in the yard, and um, they're not normally there. But this yard was completely overgrown. Ivy was everywhere, English ivy, which I was told by a friend who is a naturalist that it like robs the soil, I think, of other minerals or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free, I'm not an expert on it, but I have studied permaculture in the last several years and am just trying to, take everything I've learned and put it into this yard and trying to build up the soil and plant what I can. Ideally, I would like to be somewhere more sunny and in the country instead of in a neighborhood. But we are enjoying living by the lake. We were in Midtown in the city, and this has kind of been a nice. I don't think I would ever go back to living in a city again. But now I want to live in the country. Okay, I'm rambling a little bit, but I just want to show a little bit about what I've done here. So I cleared everything. Like I said, it was like a jungle, and I wish I had a before picture. I do not. But this is one of the first beds that I started building. And well, first let me just say I brought in a lot of mulch. After I brought in cardboard, I brought in tons and tons of mulch. Like probably 3 truckloads. I've done a lot in the front yard too. I pulled a lot of that ivy up by hand. But this I mostly smothered with cardboard, the ivy, what I didn't pull up by hand. So this bed was first. We already had a lot of these Peruvian lilies that are here, and I'll show you those in a minute. But I basically kind of built beds, and this is a lot of it was just for a look and to kind of go with the woodland look, and to keep try to keep my dog out and try to learn some boundaries. So we built this bed. I've got a lot of herbs. I've got rosemary. We thankfully have a lot of wild violets on this property, which I do use and we do eat. I have a little bean plant there. I have a lot of hostas, which are edible, which is very interesting. I have some mints. I have some pineapple sage, and some of these I just put in this year, so they're still kind of new. Foxgloves I put in a couple years ago. This heat has been getting them. I have some bee balm and other things over there as well, and a lot of canna lilies, which are also edible. So, show you what else I have. I've heard that this is called creeping Jenny, but there's other things called creeping Jenny as well. And it does have some medicinal properties from what I'm learned, but I'm trying to get it up just because I would rather grow things that my chickens can eat if I'm going to have weeds. And I need to research this a little more. I'm sure it's something that maybe the soil needs and maybe it's doing its thing. But anyway, so backing up. So some of the first things I did was plant some fig trees. And yes, I know this is a shady yard, so maybe that wasn't a great idea. But I did anyway, and we had some yields. Not tons, but we did get some figs last year. And they were delicious. I have 2 different kinds. I have some blueberries. I don't have any on there yet, but we did get some last year. I have pokeberry growing everywhere, and I'm just using it to, obviously not feed the chickens because it's poisonous, but I chop it down and use it as mulch. Always looking for things to do chop and drop with. So, built this bed recently, and we have a little bit more sun in this area now, and I noticed that there was a lot of things growing here, and I planted some seeds, and I have a lot of things coming up, a lot of herbs coming up. And this looks like squash, which I did not plant here, or pumpkins, so I don't know if that was voluntary or if it was in my compost, because I did use some compost in here. I have some beans. These came up from seed, these bush beans. The jalapenos I put in myself, though. I bought those at Lowe's. But I have a lot of seedlings in here. I've thinned it out a little already. So we'll see what happens in there, what I'll often grow. I have some elderberries. I also have some elderberries down by the water. So we planted this elderberry. We have these canna lilies that I planted. And this is one of the trees we had down that I planted a fern inside. And got some spiderwort in there. And another elderberry. More pokeberries that I'm using for for mulch, like I said. That's another tree that we had down. We have some wild violets in there and some hostas and a little pond just to add some wildlife, water for the butterflies and to attract frogs. I have some pineapple sage that I planted here from clippings. It grows huge in my garden, in the neighborhood garden, the community garden that I'm a part of. And there was an old wood pile here, so I've been taking advantage of it, and I put mulch on top of it. And I believe that might be pumpkins coming up. I have pumpkins planted in several places that I'm hoping to just kind of trail along down the slope. Eventually I'd like to, this is a slope, I don't know that you can tell much, but I'm going to eventually kind of terrace that in parts and make a, beds in it as well as these trees goes, unless we're gone and in the country by then. So that's a little bit about that. But continuing on this little tour. So another thing that I did was build these beds out of trees that we had cut. And stones that I found in the yard. I have some sages and lots of different kind of ferns and hostas and foxgloves and a lot of I'm going blank, but I know y'all know what that is. It'll come to me in a minute. I have lots of it here and there that I've separated and kind of spread around, and I use it for mosquitoes, band-aids, and people have been using it apparently for a long time for that. And I have nasturtiums coming up that I planted from seed, Lenten roses in there, more ferns, or the Peruvian spider lilies that are just kind of ground cover here that somebody put in. And some of the things have not been doing super good because of all the heat that we've had. I have some purple sage that I planted both of these sages from clippings because I had some in my front yard. I have a bean coming up here. I have some bee balm and some salvia. I have a lot of bee balm in the neighborhood garden, and I moved some of it over here because it was kind of overtaking my beds, and some echinacea coming along. I have more echinacea in my front. Probably should do a front yard tour. I have pineapple sage again from clippings, lavender, stevia. I have a couple of stevias, bell peppers, and the other one hasn't fruited yet. I'm hoping it does, but we'll see. This is literally an experiment with all the shade that I have. Got a couple of kinds of oregano. I have more oregano again in the front yard. This is just to keep the dogs out from an old trellis that I had. Some more rosemary. I love rosemary. I moved this bed from the front yard because it's even more shady in the front. And I had some Jerusalem artichokes that came up from my compost. So I'll just see what they do, and some beans. I have some calendula coming up and a couple more herbs and more beans. And it looks like more Jerusalem artichokes. So we'll see, even if it's just stuff I feed to the chickens and never blooms. I don't know. We'll see. And there's more Jerusalem artichokes here as well that I planted purposely because it was taking over my neighborhood beds. Pulp that I'll chop down again and add to build up the soil. Pineapple sage, hostas, so many wild violets. I love them so much. They're everywhere. Thankful for them. And show you a couple other beds that I have here. My chicken coop. This is a bed that I literally just built in the middle of our pathway because I'm trying to, get the water to run where I want it to. And I still have a lot of experimenting to do with that, and even just studying permaculture, just a way to kind of get the water to move and to. It's very interesting, but when you're actually doing it yourself on a sloped lot that has, well, I don't know. I think I won't get way into that, but I have ideas, and I'm just going to keep trying and see what works. But anyway, I literally built this out of just logs and bricks in the middle, and I didn't think it would hold, that it would get washed out. And I need to add some soil there, but that's not because of getting washed out. An animal got in there and got up something because I had some compost in here. But I planted these from seed, all of this. Nasturtiums, tomatoes. I think that's just coming up from the compost, honestly. More tomatoes. They might not do anything, but at least they'll help build soil. I have squash coming up. I doubt that it'll do anything, but we'll see. greens I definitely think I can grow here, especially in the fall, which I will do, and I will add some more soil from the chicken run. This is another bed that I did kind of in the beginning that I need to come in here and do some weeding, not with the wild violets because I adore them, but this had ivy everywhere, like this. And I basically just, that log was already here from an old tree that had fallen. I'm doing more work up there trying to get rid of the ivy with cardboard. And I have a camellia and other things, but I planted just a bunch of ferns and just to add things that I wanted, Lenten roses. And then the chicken coop, which chicken run, I probably should have cleaned it up before I brought you over here, but here I am anyway. I'm planting, I have nasturtiums coming up around here and rosemary that I planted, pineapple sage. There's another rosemary, hostas, more nasturtiums, and we'll just see what they do. And if they're gonna get enough sun, here's the blackberry that I put inside the run, hoping to climb up the little crooked archway that I built because I needed something to attach my net to. We did all of this most of it from scraps, so it was fun, honestly. I have some thyme in here, garlic, some sage from clipping, and I need to put something here. And this is literally from compost. Okay, I hear you, Queenie. And my lemon balm took a little hit here during the heat that we've been having in cement. So I thought it would be nice to have stuff like this by the chicken run, just herbs that are smelly and garlic and stuff, kind of keep maybe pest at bay a little bit. But I have a lot of lemon balm, so I can definitely replace this. I love lemon balm. So that's the basic stuff, I guess, that I've had done in the yard so far. And there's much more to do. It's my compost in, my lazy composting system. I need to go ahead and add another one. I have a potato growing out of here. So, well, that's about it. I just thought I would share a little bit about my learning, that's not the right word, but my permaculture beginnings in this yard and what all I have accomplished. And I'm not where I want to be, but I'm happy with the things that I've done, and I'm learning as I go. Have a super day.